Hey everybody, as you may know, I am in Facebook jail and have been in Facebook jail. Let me fix my hat. Ta-da! Oh, it's so crazy the way this thing is. Anyway, I have been in Facebook jail and will be in Facebook jail until August the 8th. However, there's some crap going down that I just actually just really have to speak to, and it is actually going to be an essay on my website, but I have to speak on it right now, right away, because the media is playing games. Um, and because the media is part of the institution of entertainment, whether it's political theater or whatever, it's still theater, it's still entertainment for the masses. And what the media is doing right now is something that I think could possibly be disastrous for Black people. So I got to speak on it. Okay. Um, this essay is entitled Race War and the Media, or will be once it's on my website. Hi, everybody who have joined. I actually tagged a few people because I want to make sure at least a few people get on here and actually see it, and then maybe share with other people, um, my mutuals who may not be friends on this particular page, but maybe friends on my Cynthia Elise Smith page. This is important stuff. Okay. And I have to speak on it right now, especially in light of what Trump is doing. He's ramping up his racism, his racist tactics, because he is definitely, make no mistake, trying to stoke violence. But what people need to understand is what kind of violence he's stoking. The media is going to try to portray it another way altogether. And this is what I've been seeing. Now, here's my essay. It's called Race War and the Media. It would appear that the desire at this time by the media is to compare the uprisings of Black people during the 60s and 70s with any future or impending violence in this nation as a result of the racist rhetoric of Trump. A few have even discussed it within the context of a possibility of a civil war. I've actually heard and read and seen on Facebook and other forms of social media where both Black and white are referring to the race war. But see, this is one thing that I need for you to understand, okay? Or civil war is what I meant to say. This is one thing that you need to understand with regard to this. This is a misleading media interpretation at best, and potentially disastrous for Black people at worst, since the depictions they offer connote violence at the hands of Black people toward white people. This was not true then, and it is a disgrace to use the 60s and the 70s uprisings as an example now. Let us first understand that the Civil War was about white people fighting white people over the right to own Black people. Let's not make any mistake about that. Okay, let me repeat that. The first Civil War was about white people fighting white people over the right to own Black people. Now, there may be those who might say, Black people fought in it. Yeah. But what was the fight about? Whether or not Black people fought in it does not matter. The fight was about white people being angry with and fighting white people because they were splitting the country apart because one half of the southern states at the time wanted to own people like me. Continue to own. The result of that war created the most vile and disgusting behavior by white people toward Black people ever since in ideological, behavioral, and structural institutional forms. However, ever since then, bleached recollection and popular belief has described any future civil war as specifically a war of the races. This is a direct result of deliberate misrepresentation of the facts of the war and textbook re-victimization of the enslaved, and became part of the rationale for continued hatred against Black people. Let's not bleach the Civil War anymore. It wasn't a race war. It wasn't a war. It's important to realize that the message the media is trying to instill when discussing violence and riots of the 60s and 70s is a false representation designed to connote Black violence against white people instead of murders of Black leaders, the continued terror and brutality caused by police in Black neighborhoods and communities, extreme hopelessness and anger at that time. They are using these historical references to give a bleached and false impression of the victimization of white people by Black people. When the damage from these uprisings, however tragic and destructive, were limited to their own Black communities. Trump's racist behavior stokes the fire and animus among white racist bigots and incites anger among themselves and violence toward Black people, not the other way around. In fact, unbleached history is the best teacher in this regard. Frankly, a more accurate historical reference would depict the actual consequences of racist rhetoric and exactly who is more victimized as a result. Black Wall Street comes to mind, of the ones that they will acknowledge from time to time. Therefore, the following needs to be understood. All, not some, all of the vitriol, bigotry, and racist rhetoric directed at Black people and others has always worked to create violence against Black and other non-white people by white people. History shows that violence has been primarily white against Black in the form of groups, mobs, and riots of white people violating Black communities from the end of the enslavement to the present time. Pundits and media spokespeople will not publicly admit white violence against Black people as racist, whether historically or today, or the fact that it has risen tremendously since the racist president took office. They will never recount the numerous incidents of wanton violence against Black people by white mobs and the riots they caused over the years. In fact, that's what a riot is. That, when they talked about riots back then, back in Woodrow Wilson's time and during the entire American nadir, Black nadir, riots were not caused by us. They were pogroms, mobs of indignant racists who went into these communities of color, and ravaged and rampaged and destroyed and stole and murdered. So when you hear references to the turbulent times of the 60s and the 70s, don't take the bait. These were uprisings, not riots. And they were not mobs of Black people going into and destroying white communities. The context and definition of the word riot was bleached and changed to connote Black violence against themselves and others, including white businesses. In actuality, riots were formed from bands of white mobs, usually Klansmen, to terrorize and in many cases steal, murder, and destroy entire Black communities. For that matter, mass shootings by white men against anyone in public spaces continue to terrorize the nation, but each is handled as a separate incident and not a national security crisis. So this is what is important for you to remember as you hear the sound of my voice and you see my face, and it ain't today. Remember, when it comes to racism and its effects on the Black community by its racist perpetrators, the issue has never been Black violence, but always, remember, it will be Black defense. That's the end of this essay. And I'm not going to be on here too long. I'm going to mention the names of the people who came on. Thank you for checking out the tag, if you saw the tag, or please feel free to share, because this is important. I've noticed that the media is changing the tone of the rhetoric. While they are admitting finally that Donald Trump is a racist, always has been, and is stoking racist animus to his base, or, they call it a base, to these racist MFers. The potential for violence against Black people is increasing because of it. And anybody who thinks otherwise is crazy. And for the media to come on the air and talk about the 60s and the 70s as though, oh my God, we just don't want to see any more of that. Nobody does. But that wasn't a bunch of Black people going haywire over nothing. They killed Martin Luther King. They were killing people in the streets. And for the most part, since the 60s and the 70s, nothing like that has happened since. Not to that degree. It almost did in Ferguson. It shouldn't have, but it could have, and it wouldn't have been because of Black people. It was definitely because they brought in the armor and basically was set up for a war. They thought that was going to be the one. Don't be deceived, people. They may try to make this look like this is something we doing, either directly or indirectly. But this ain't us. This is not Black people. We sitting back laughing and looking at this idiot and saying, you got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me how they could keep this man in this office. But you have to understand that the institution lives in politics as well. And they're trying to make you think that this part is not as important as healthcare. So I'm going to reference my friends who decided to jump on board, whether you're there or not still. That would be Dr. Michael Thomas. Hi, Mike. Hi, Michael Bryan. Hey, Jessica. Hey, Steve. Hi, Tippy. Hey, Wayne. What's going on, Window? I hope you're still there. Sean Allen. Hey, Dr. Jewel. And L. Hey, L. What's going on, buddy? Hey, Steve. I don't know how many people are still on. The live video eyeball shows 2 people, so I'm not really sure who's here or who is still here and who is not here. Yeah, Tippy, states' rights. That's definitely evident with the stacked judicial system, as well as the stacked Department of Justice. They have effectively created states' rights again. And then states' rights is a little misnomer, because states' rights only is effective when it relates to their right to treat their niggers whatever way they want to, because they have enlisted the federal government for a whole lot of other things, such as, for one in particular, the ownership and legislation of a woman's right to her reproductive organs. So they, states' rights don't always apply to them, only when it relates to generally to Black people and how they handle Black people. Dr. Michael Thomas, you say, I remember the uprising of the 60s in my home of Cleveland and Detroit. Of course, yes. It wasn't like these people were going into name a couple of suburbs out there outside of Cleveland and Detroit. Those little white enclaves, those little sundown towns that remain that way today. Wasn't no Black people coming out there with clubs and hoods and horses and cars and ropes and tearing up those communities. Wasn't nothing like that. So for the media to try to depict that time, which was indeed turbulent, but for them to pick that time and what conjures up inside the mind, what it conjures up inside the minds of people who see those real, those news reels and people who who are still alive like me, who actually recall, who remember those times. It was violent. Those, they showed you. What did they show you? Looting, going into these stores and stealing, burning. They didn't show you the peaceful protests that occurred prior to the incendiary things that were done to provoke violence. So this is why it's important to pay attention. It's so important to pay attention to the stuff that you see and hear and read. It's vitally important right now. I don't know how many people actually picked that up. I hope people picked that up. I really do. I hope that you picked up it because it was playing pretty prominently a couple of days ago, maybe even yesterday. It was playing pretty prominently, because Trump had spent the entire weekend tweeting about Cummings and taking the S off his last name to make it sound like cum-ing. He's not slick. He was trying to, how he has that penchant for changing people's names, like he Schiffer or something like that. Adam Schiff. He called him Adam Shit. He knows what he's doing when he does those things to people's names, and he does the kinds of things that he does, and he's an asshole, and everybody knows he's an asshole. But make no mistake, we laugh. But his followers are not laughing. His followers are being made to believe that we are planning something, that we are doing something, that we are trying to, we, black people, are trying to start a race war. Or that a race war is in the offing, imminent, possible, probable, as a result of all this. But who's starting it? Let's not get this thing twisted. And this is the point I'm trying to make. Let's not get this thing twisted in terms of who starts it and who perpetrates the violence. You can't have it both ways, racists. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot portray yourself as innocent when you're not. You're outed. The blindfolds are off. It's out there. There are sides to be chosen. You're either for justice, equality, equity, and opportunity for all, or you're with that asshole. As simple as that. And trust and believe that the mainstream media, no matter how much they try to, they let you know how racist he is and how the Republican Party is complicit because of their inaction. They are also perpetrating a fraud. And they want you to think that any violence that would come about as a result of this stuff would be us creating that violence. Or provoking that violence. When whatever violence happened in the 60s and 70s was a direct result of violence perpetrated against us and was in defense of ourselves. We are not and have never been the provocateurs of this sort of racist violence. Make no mistake. It needs to be placed where it belongs, once and for all. So when you hear that crap on television and you see and you hear them reference the 60s and the 70s, you understand, you go back and you get some unbleached history about that time. And you understand that they were uprisings. Uprisings, yes, in the United States. There were people who were uprising just like they were during the enslavement. Yeah, we uprise. But it is in defense of ourselves. We are not the aggressors here. We have never been. In matters of race and racism, we have never been the aggressors. But I'll be damned if we won't be the defenders of ourselves once again. I'm about to get up off of here because I'm getting pissed. I'm getting real pissed. Tremendously pissed. Don't be perpetrating frauds up in here. Not in 2019, okay? Don't be trying to depict the 60s and the 70s as a time of just upheaval because we Negroes were not behaving. People can only take so much lynching, murder, terror, theft of entire communities before they uprise, before they rise up. So don't put that crap on our one side and call that uprising anything but what it is. And it's in defense. So what I would suggest is that the media says it like it is. And don't be talking about stoking the fears of white people. Bullshit. Bullshit. They are the aggressors. Okay, stop playing with me. The fears, stoking the fears. Fear my ass. Excuse me, my mood is in the bed. Made me cuss. Fear my big fat behind. How about that? How about that? Anybody got any questions? Comments? Did anybody see any of those media reports where they were talking about how this could start a civil war, as though the Civil War was a race war? Come on. The Civil War was not a war between black and white. That's the way they want to make you think. Normal white people, get that part through your heads. Whatever the history books have taught you about the Civil War, once one half of the country wanted to continue to own slaves because it was economically lucrative. The other half was experiencing an industrial revolution, and they did not feel that the agriculture of the South was going to do it for them. But they also did not want the country to break apart. They liked the idea of a united state of being for the country. Unlike, say, South Africa, where you have a whole lot of different countries on a continent, well, the United States could very well be each state as its own country, aka states' rights. But because we have a federal system that governs the entire body, that's what they wanted to keep. So, hey, Chuck, hey, Chucky, what's going on, buddy? You know, I've been Facebook friends with your son forever. For a little while, I thought it was you. Hey, Thelma, I don't know whether you guys are still on here. Hey, yep, nice seeing you too. Nice seeing you too. Okay, Dr. Michael Thomas says the problem was we were burning our own areas. Yeah, but that just plays, yeah, that is true. But that plays into the fact that people tend to create havoc in their own confines, generally, as human beings. However, when it comes to racists, their whole purpose was to destroy any semblance of economic success for Black communities. And, you know, because it went against the ideology of white supremacy. They can't be equal to us, you know? So that's what that was. That was the deviation. They are not enthused like they were in the 60s. Everybody came out. It's a big difference today. No, Deborah, I can't say that. No, that can't, no. A lot of people are a lot wiser now. They know what the result will generally be. Uh, the enthusiasm for equality, equity, opportunity, and justice has never waned. It's just that you find better ways or try to find better ways to achieve that. And a lot of Black people had decided to try to do it individually as opposed to as a group. That plays, and you need to hit my website. I talk about the whole concept of collectivity and individualism that happened during the period of the 70s through the end of the 20th century, the post-racial colorblind era, which was parallel to the Me movement of that time. Generally, there are parallels, like you have the Roaring '20s, but you also have the Great Depression, things like that. Well, not so much the Roaring, but you have the Roaring '20s, and at the same time, you have the African American Nadir, where so many Black people were killed and mutilated and burned and lynched, and during this period of time. Hey, Mike. James O'Rouche. Hey, buddy. Um, I say, hey. It's a very big difference today. See, you have to qualify that. You have to qualify that because I don't want you to get stuck on what went down in the 60s and the 70s in terms of the burning and the this and the that and the violence and the brought upon ourselves and our neighborhoods and communities, which was orchestrated for the most part and which many have never recovered, okay? From which many have never even recovered. Hey, Casey Basso. Hey, Julia Neal Pittman. So it's important to put things in. Remember, I've been pressing this in some of my writing and some of my one in particular of my videos was comprehension, context, and connotation. Those are the 3 C's and the most important tools that we need to use at this point in our history when navigating this system of racism. It is tremendously important to understand this. Okay? Comprehension, context, and connotation. And these 3 things are really important when you're listening to the media. What context are they using this in? They were using the context of a civil war, and they were comparing the behavior of Trump to violence during the 60s and the 70s. When you think of violence in the 60s and the 70s, what's the first thing comes to your mind? A Black face. And if it don't, it should. Because that's the context that they want you to see. But at the same time that you see this in context, then you need to understand, I see what they're doing. I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to have it both ways. They're trying to let you know that the crap that this man, Trump, is doing and all his followers and cohorts may cause their people, these white races, to go just hog shit crazy. They might just go crazy and start going in the neighborhoods again like they did. But see, if you have no concept of what they used to do, then you're not even going to know about that. And they're not going to talk about that part. But what they will talk about is what the end result would be, which is the uprising. But they don't call it an uprising, call it a riot. So That's why it's important to pay attention, because you hear these things and you get the context, and then you get the understanding. And then, for me, the connotation is, how the F dare you? How the F dare you, mainstream media? As part of your studies in school, maybe not. Well, I'll put it like this. Black people know, or should know, as part of your education with me. Look up Black American nadir. Look up that period. That would have been a lot more appropriate as the period of time the media should have suggested as something they would never want to see happen again. That should have been the period of time. Hey, Greg Harrison and Jerome Terrell and Chris Smith. Hi, guys. That should have been the period of time. Not the 60s and the 70s. That was defense. However misplaced, it was still defense. An attempt at defense. But if you're concerned about what could happen, you need to talk about the African American nadir period of time, when racist rhetoric was on full tilt, and what resulted from it. Look it up. Do your research. That's a homework assignment. Hey, James Jackson. So, anyway, feel free to share this video. In fact, I asked you to share this video with people so that they will pay extra special attention to the things that they are hearing and reading. There's my poop. Things that they are hearing and reading. Where you going, buddy? Okay. So they will pay special attention to what they're hearing and reading. And so that they will understand that civil war is not race war. It never was. Even though this is what they're trying to associate a war between the races. Civil war was not a war between the races. It was a war between themselves about people who one side wanted to own. For economic purposes. One race war. So don't conflate a war between the races with civil war. And this is what I'm telling us as well. Oh, it's going to be another civil war. No, it's not. Call it what it's going to be, if it's going to be whatever it's going to be. And I would hope it would never come to that. But in order for that not to happen, the good white people got to check the bad white people. Y'all got to check them people, because they going crazy. And they going to cause some really, really raunchy shit to come down. They going to cause some messed up stuff to come down. I'm going to show you my shirt. Yes, I did. I finished it, did it? Last year. And the doctor is in, even though she's incarcerated, on Facebook until August the 8th, at which time, if you have not already, please submit a friend request to Cynthia Elise Smith, because that is, and I think it says Dr. Cynthia Elise Smith. And you also want to look for C. period Elise Smith. That's my formal page. Because otherwise, once August the 8th kicks in, I will not be on this anymore until such time that Facebook so decides to throw me in jail for 30 days again. Oh my goodness. For those of you who don't know why I was in Facebook jail, and at the risk of me getting thrown back in after this video, I am Dr. Cynthia Elise Smith. I am an anti-racism essayist, activist, social media activist, and educator. And it is my fervent mission to open minds. My mantra is that I do not try to change anybody's mind, but damn it, I'm going to open it. You're going to do a deep dive. You're going to start thinking. You are going to start critically thinking about your life. And every time you hear something about race, racism, black people, that is not politics. People seem to think that when I talk about this stuff, I'm talking about politics. This is not politics. Politics enters in. Media enters in, which is entertainment. You have to understand the structural institutions of racism. What I am talking about when I talk is about racism. Racialized words, subliminal seduction, subliminal references, using your conscious mind to pay attention, digging down deep into your subconscious for all those biases that live. So, just understand, politics is just one institution in this thing. Entertainment, of which media is a part, is another. And right now I'm talking about the media institute, the entertainment institution of media, and what they are trying to propagate, which in effect has a way of stoking fear as well. And additional animus. It's like, oh, they gonna start burning down again, as though we was up in their neighborhoods burning. Talk about it, my sister. Wake our people up. You dag blasted Skippy is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna open up some minds up in here, and this is my purpose. This is what I will do until I die, is to open your minds. And you get up there on my website, www.calease-writer.com, and that's CALEASE-writer.com, and you read my essays and you look at some of those videos. We need to know today. I had someone write something to me, not to me specifically, but make a post about missing the 80s. Being tired of hearing about all this racial stuff, not even realizing that some of the most damaging things to our opportunity, equity, equality, and justice went down through policy and laws and regulations during that period, where everybody thought we was post-racial and colorblind. Thank you, Deborah Shank. Thank you, Deborah Shankler. Please share this. That's right. Thank you, because you are speaking the truth, sister. That's why they put you in Facebook. This isn't the first time. I am a recidivist and proud of it. Proud of it. You see this? She is. And she gonna stay in whether it's in Facebook jail or on my pages or on YouTube, because this is a mess. And now you've got the media, of course, doing their part, because you're not going to do the part. That thing pissed me off so bad, I was just livid. I didn't do anything about it that day, but I said, I got to get on here. So I threw on a little lip, a little eye and a little lip, and a little blush here. My hair's a mess because I've been swimming. Because I'm going swimming Wednesday as well. Taking my mood swimming. Yep. Anyway, I digress. Hey, Shiku. Hi. Yes, definitely. Share this video. Let people know that they really, really have to start paying attention. That this is not politics. If you're Black, this is your life. This is your life. This is the lives of your children and your grandchildren. I'm 65 years old. Do you think for a moment I would have wanted this to be the state of this union, of this nation, for my grandchildren, for my children? Do you think, did I expect, boy, quiet, did I expect that anything would change? Had I hoped that things would change? But it's not our fight. It has never been our problem. We are not the problem. And we have never been the problem. You're looking at a full-faced representation of the problem sitting up there in the White House. He is the depiction of everything that has been wrong in this country since its inception. Hey, T. Powell. How you doing, buddy? Since this country's inception, they have been their own problem. And I'd be damned if they're going to make me one. They keep trying. So for the media to get up there and say, my God, with all of the rhetoric that Trump is spewing, our fear is that there could be a civil war. No. How was there going to be a civil war when ain't nobody owning no slaves out in no damn fields? I mean, if you want to get deep, you could say prisoner uprisings in prisons could have a relationship to the economy, or does have a relationship to the economy. So if every prison in the nation uprose against these private companies, and then you had the side that said, but we don't want the country to split as a result, even then it's kind of, I can't even wrap my brain around this whole idea of civil war being attributed to any behavior of Trump. Race war? Absolutely. War between the races? Specifically now, we got to get specific now, because it has always been, whether as quiet as it's kept, whether you want to believe it or not, it has always been Black versus white, in black and white. It has always been about the descendants of the enslavement. Those of us who are descendants of the enslavement, who had the audacity to get out of that and then fight for rights and get some, a few, in the economic area, institution, and in the a little bit in labor economics, a little bit in labor, a little bit in economics, a little bit in the political institution, a little bit in the entertainment institution, a lot in the religious institution. Oh, they will let us propagate that stuff to high heaven, okay? And make a lot of money doing it. Tax-free money doing it. But it's all quiet down for a while until all their meetings came to end. I didn't get the rest of it, Deborah. Hey, Theodore Merrick. I didn't get the rest of your statement. So if you could clarify that if you're still on, I'd appreciate that. I'll speak to it. Anyway, so that's that. I mean, I could talk about this friggin' ever, but I just think that it came to an end. It all quieted down for a while until they meetings came to an end. I'm not quite sure what you mean until their meetings came to an end. If you mean in terms of if you're using like meetings as a metaphor for behavior, for things that they have been doing over the years, I would have to say, yeah. Well, the age or the era of colorblindness effectively ended on January the 20th, 2017, when Donald Trump was installed. And I am very careful with the use of that word. And people who know me know that I am pretty careful with the use of words. He was installed. He was not elected. So it's very important to understand that. So when he was installed as president of these United States, that is when colorblind, post-racial, anything ended. Because he has effectively ushered in a new era, which could see one of two things happen: a war against the races, which would probably be fought in conjunction with wars overseas to deflect from everything that would be happening here. Because the things that would be happening here, they could always use as justification for, like they did back in that time, as justification for the crackdowns that would ensue against Black people in their neighborhoods and things of that nature. And they could say that the behavior of our behavior and everything could be because of the anti-war, or they could use other things to so-called justify their terrorism and brutality against us. Tie in for us the right. I think I understand what you're saying. Yeah, selected and installed. Absolutely, Michael. Dr. Michael. Absolutely. He was not elected. He was installed. And what people need to understand. I was watching that guy, Charlemagne the God. Now, I'm not particularly a fan of his, but he was exquisitely on point today on MSNBC on a news broadcast today where he was a guest. He was tremendously on point, concise, and explained everything the way that it is. And he pretty much put to rest that whole Civil War crap. I mean, that came up very, very tiny. I don't even think that if you could miss it. But it was he laid the blame at the table where it belongs. He put that little place setting right in front of who it belonged with, collectively and as the head. So if there are no more statements or questions, oh, I see there are a couple. Okay, everything he does is a deflection. Not everything. Not everything. Remember, use the tools, the 3 tools: comprehension, context, and connotation. Everything that he does is not a deflection. Everything that he does, and see, because that throws everything he does into one vacuum. People think that he's stupid. Yes, in a lot of areas, he's a dumb fuck. See, I got cussing right into here. Fuck. I gotta say that. Come on. Right? Okay. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I get admonished. Well, you know what he is. Okay? But he is also calculating. And even though he is not a reader, he reads. He read them tweets. He know how to share a tweet. Okay? Everything he does is not a deflection because some of the things that he does are directly to make a statement to his people. He fancies himself a king. He knows that his kingdom is small. And though people may think that he doesn't care that his kingdom is small, he does care because he likes the grandiose. He wants the entire thing to be his. He wants this entire thing to be. Grayson, all right, baby. Keep your feet out the camera. I know what you're doing. You want to come say hi? You want to come say hi, Mood? Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Do not do that. That sounds horrible on the video. You want to say hi? Okay, well then don't do that. You can play, but don't lift that up and stuff. So I think it's time for me to get off of here because he about to cut up. Anyway. Oh, hey. Hey. What's up, my niecey? Hey, Reg. Hey, Gina. Hey, my cohort and partner in crime. He's a comment. Oh, yes, absolutely. But see, here's the thing, Reg. I was getting ready to get off, but I'm not getting off because my buddies are on here now. I mean, all my buddies are still here. See, and people that got off because you got to do other things, but whatever, you my buddies too. He's a con man. It takes, listen, not everybody can be a convincing con man. Let's take that word con man and let's break it down a little bit. Con is part of confidence. And what do confidence men do? It's just a shortened version of confidence man. What do confidence men do? They gain your confidence. Not everybody can gain my confidence. And I'm sure that people who feel the same about that word, that term, confidence. You can have confidence in yourself, or you can have the ability to persuade other people into your confidence. It takes a charismatic person to do that. Not everybody can make millions of people believe that he has all the answers, or to see what they see and hear what they hear, and then have him tell them, don't believe it. Just look here. Just believe what you hear coming out of here, and believe what you see right here. It takes a lot to be able to do that. So make no mistake, people, he ain't dumb. He's a con man. Con men are very smart. They may not necessarily be book smart, of which he is dumb as fuck. Grayson ain't paying attention right now, so dumb AF. Okay, so that's right. My cellmate, you know that's right. Oh, thank you. Well, I mean, I can't help but be passionate. Siku, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Sikau or Siku, I'm not sure. Kuwezi, I love that name, by the way. Yes, confidence. Yes, conniving, convincing. Absolutely, 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 Reg. Absolutely, Regina. My girl, my cellmate. Yes, indeedy. By the way, don't worry about commissary. I'm cool. And I'll be out on the 8th. Ah, yes. Oh, I was close. Cool. Ah, Siku. Okay. Is it Seku, like SAY, cool, or Siku? There's actually, yeah, I could be that too. Sometimes you gotta laugh to keep from crying. I mean, and there have been times on my videos where I have become so angry or so upset or so hurt that the tears just start flowing, and I'm like, you know, I get really, really deep because some of this stuff is just so say okay, Seiku. Thank you. I love phonetics. Phonetics are your friend. Phonetics are your friend. Always teach through the use of phonetics. You can get the spelling of words after the fact. Yeah. Now I can. That's a wonderful name. I like that name a lot. Seku. And I would venture to guess that it has a meaning as well. I named my children because of the meanings of their names. At the time, I was Muslim, and in the 70s, and when my son was born, I waited until they were all born. My oldest son's name means trustworthy, loyal companion, handsome and gentle. My daughter's name means reliable, beautiful and gentle. And my youngest son means king and handsome and gentle. Yep. Hey, Brenda. Seku. Yes, yes. Yep. And Deborah, you understand? Good, 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 good. Oh, it's a stone? Is it another name for a stone or something in the earth? Okay. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Very interesting. Names are important. Words are, yes. Yes, yes, and you will find that as you read my essays, Sekou, and watch the videos, you'll find that I do take words and dissect them for meaning, for understanding. I will break it down from if there's a prefix, the root, the suffix, because those things change not only context and comprehension, but they change connotation as well. And that's why I say those three things are so important: comprehension, connotation, context, not necessarily in that order, but all three are important. Most people make the mistake of just feeling the word, which is the connotation, without understanding the context by which it has been written or spoken or read, and not understanding the word itself. I had somebody actually say to me, what did he say? He said, I actually put it into a post. He said, oh, here I go. Let me see if I can find it. This video is getting a little long, but I got to find this. I got to find this. Give me a minute because I have to find this. Hold on one second. Because I literally have to find this. I think what I did was put it into a Word document because it affected me. Examination of the state. Yeah, I think this is it. I'm about to read another video. Yes, I found it. Okay. This is not related to this other part, but it is related to the conversation. Studious. Why I saw the erudite, the DITE, and thought it was a stone. Ha! I need to look it up. Thank you, my dear. Okay. All right. Here's something. This has to do with words and how important they are to understand them. This was a comment made in response to a comment I made about Elvis and Priscilla Presley relative to his pedophilia. Another included references to the racial aspects of his behavior, not by me, but by other people who were commenting. And when then this person who identified as white deflected from my comment by discussing the colonel who was associated with Elvis and alluded to his racist behavior. He said and then when he was called on not having responded to my comment by the moderator or by the person who originally wrote the post, he says, failed to acknowledge means failed to acknowledge. It does not mean ignored. Okay. So I replied to him and I said, before I analyze, I asked him first. I said, can I analyze your statement? And I would love to analyze that statement you made. Fail to acknowledge means fail to acknowledge. It does not mean ignored. Oh, please, let me analyze that for you. And he said, okay, have at it. I said, well, I can do it on Messenger. I was going to get a minute break. I was going to do it on Messenger. I wasn't going to do it in that forum. He said, have at it. I said, okay, on this thread, all righty. I said, before I analyze your statement, I want to explain the tools I will employ, since you will probably not even be aware of the racialized implications of your statement, which is fail to acknowledge means fail to acknowledge. It does not mean ignored. I said, this is what happens when people are not paying attention to the very words they write, read, or say. Why? Because they never really had to in terms of white people. Never really had to. Okay? And politically correct language and behavior was relegated to the most atrocious behavior and comments. Because he made some statements relative to political correctness and all this kind of stuff. Like he had made a comment one time and then he got PC'd on it or whatever. And in the post that I wrote on Facebook, I actually got into a lot more detail. I'm going to see if I can find that post because this one was the initial one and it does not adequately reflect what I wrote. But maybe I'll do that in another video. So I said, in order to fully navigate the system of racism and white supremacy into which we are all, black and white, entrenched, it is virtually imperative to navigate through the language of the system and the ideology, whether it is written, spoken, or read. If you do not have the following 3 skill sets, you will need to learn them and then always use them consciously. These are the 3 C's to navigating through the system of racism in the U.S. And these are what I call the 3 C's of navigating through racism in the U.S. Of course, I've been talking about it. Comprehension. This is the most important because it is the essence of understanding what you are saying, being told, writing, or reading, or the ability of one's mind to form and craft imagery and concepts from the words. Other terms for this most important aspect of navigation are grasping, cognition, cognizance, awareness, perception, discernment, and interpretation. Context. Second in importance to comprehension, but only in its numerical designation, is the ability to understand the circumstances that form the setting for an event, statement, or idea, and in terms of which it can be fully understood or assessed. Okay? So you have to understand the circumstances that form the setting for the event, for what it is you're reading, for what it is that happened. What was it that was spoken to try to tie it back into this mess with the media? What was the context they used? 2. They tried to conflate 2 contexts. Trump's rhetoric and uprisings of black people in the 60s and the 70s. Connotation. Not in the least, but the last of the 3 very important tools is the ability of the words to summon emotion or an idea or feeling that a word invokes in addition to its literal or primary meaning. So that is to say, a connotation is particularly important because it is the feeling of the word, the thing that makes you feel something after you've read, written, were told, or said something. How do you make others feel? By the words you use. That's the connotation. Okay? They're important because they are the expressive part of the word. They bring life to the word. They bring feeling to the words. It is that part of the words, sentences, and paragraphs from thought which create the drama and cause people to react in different ways. Tying it back to that BS from the media. They're saying things that connote violence, but it connotes violence with black people as the perpetrators, as opposed to defenders of themselves. Civil War. Anyway. So I say to him, quite possibly. Now, I need for you to hear this because I had to lay it out for him, because I had to break it down. I broke it down. I said, quite possibly one of the most, if not the most egregious behaviors of some white people, no matter how well-meaning, is the lack of acknowledgement. Think about that for a minute while you listen to me talk about this and talk about how I kind of had to school this individual who just did not know what he was saying. He had no comprehension. He didn't understand the context. All he did was connote. That was it. And he may not have done that. But I said the statement, fail to acknowledge, means fail to acknowledge. It does not mean ignored. Takes the lack of acknowledgement to an extremely narrow step further by, guess what? Acknowledging that it is not being ignored, thereby creating a conundrum of misunderstanding, comprehension, and a leap out of context and connotations that feel willful and biased. I'll tell you why. In breaking down the words themselves, we find that the word acknowledge means, see, you got to break it down. The word acknowledge means to accept or admit the existence or truth of, and in terms of a body of opinion, recognize the fact or importance or quality of a matter or comment, etc. And ignore means to refuse to take notice of, or guess what? Acknowledge, disregard intentionally. So quite simply, it is, acknowledgement is connected directly to the word ignore. Therefore, the question should be asked, how is it that one can claim he is accepting or admitting the existence of, or truth of, or the fact of importance or quality of a matter or comment, while at the same time claiming he is not ignoring, when clearly one word is directly connected to the other in context and connotation? The comprehension of each definition in its context shows that both words are antonyms of each other and are related, therefore. The connotation or feeling of the comment, therefore, is that the person making it is well aware of his entitlement to ignore, while pretending not to ignore that he or she finds that which he or she finds either uncomfortable or simply not worth the trouble. I'm not going to acknowledge that. Of course, I'm not ignoring it, because first of all, I don't even know what those words really mean. They don't sound like they mean the same thing. Of course they don't. They're opposites of one another. But however, I'm going to say that I'm not going to acknowledge you. But I'm at the same time going to say that I'm not ignoring you, which says that I am willfully doing the same thing that I'm going to tell you. It's kind of like gaslighting. I'm paying attention, but I'm not paying attention. I'm not paying attention to you, but I'm going to tell you or vice versa. Anyway, so this is why I explained that semantics were at play, which is what I told him. Basically, you didn't acknowledge, which is precisely what ignoring means. So when you say you didn't acknowledge, you had to be ignoring. Because to acknowledge is the opposite. Can't have it both ways, people. Can't have it both ways. For white people who harbor unconscious biases about Black people, the comprehension or understanding here is that what a Black person says need not be acknowledged. It is a very common and unconscious reaction of many white people concerning Black people. Even if the white person consciously abhors the ravages of racism, both individually and systemically, it is extremely difficult to lose the unconscious biases that have been ingrained for generations. And one of those biases is that what we have to say isn't important and needs not be acknowledged. So that's basically what he was saying. And I told him about it. Hey, Fletch. So I had to tell him about it. And I had to let him know that, in fact, guess what? You were ignoring me. You can't have it both ways. So those three things are really important. I'm going to be pressing those on just about every video, because it is so important. I can't impress upon you the importance, everybody who is within the sound of my voice. I cannot impress upon you the importance of understanding, comprehending. That's understanding. And once you understand what is being read, Mood, why don't you just come say hi? Come on, Moody. Come on, Grateful. All right, well then don't. But you're just sitting up here peeking little peeks into the video. Once you have that understanding, then part of that understanding includes the understanding of the context or the event, the thing that this understanding hails from, or the setting, the ability to understand the circumstances that form the setting of whatever it is that is being said, spoken, read, or written. And then finally, connotation. How does it make you feel? How does what you write make other people feel? Now, of course, these three things have a relationship outside of the institutions of racism, but not enough people use them within this context. Not a lot of people comprehend racism and put it in the proper context. All they do is feel those words that Trump is throwing out there. They're feeling the words, but they're not understanding the context. And then you got the media that sits up there and tries to give you a context and try to paint a picture of something that is misleading at best and extremely dangerous for Black people at most. We are not contemplating war. So don't use the 60s and the 70s which were also not contemplations of war. Don't use that within the same context of the Civil War that could happen. When anybody who knows American history knows, or should know, the unbleached history of the Civil War and what it was fought for. Okay. Thank you, Sekou. Hey, Vivian. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Deborah. Yes. Listen, this page is going to close down on August the 8th, because I'll be going back to my original pages. I have Cynthia Elise Smith, and I have C. Elise Smith. That's my formal. That's that like page. So, head on over there and like it and share it and share this video. Also, my website is www.calease-writer.com. Also, I do want to put this out here before I forget. I am a co-host on a radio talk show, which comes on every Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern and 3 p.m. Pacific. It is called TMGS, The Michael Gay Show. It's interesting. We have guests on. Sometimes I do, like last week, I did a commentary on smoking and the 3 addictions involved in smoking. And I gave a little anecdotal, I gave a little story about that. Of course, I am an ex-smoker since 1991. And that was only because I researched and discovered the 3 addictions and how each one of them works by itself and in tandem with the other 2. It's kind of like if you can envision one circle, then another circle going into that circle, and another circle going into that circle, and them all spinning around together. And once I understood that, not only was I able to help myself to quit, and have been smoke-free for like 28 years, cold turkey. I was able to help my husband quit in 96, and my mother in 96, and at least one other person to quit. And it's hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's hard. And I talk about those delivery systems that the tobacco companies provide to keep the nicotine in your system, which is one of the addictions. And that's by design to get you to go back using one of the other addictions. So anyway, that's another story for another time. I'm going to get ready and get off of here. Oh, hey, Fletch. I'm going to get ready to get off of here because now it's been about an hour and a half. And my original post was, I have calmed down significantly because I was getting hot. I was really, really getting angry behind this BS that they're trying to say on TV right now. Okay. Moot, Grayson, he's right behind me. That's my moody rude. That's my mood. That's my moody. That's my mood poo. Hi, Moody. All right, I'm gonna get ready and go. As always, please share. Hi, cutie pie. Please share with anybody who you think will find this of interest. In fact, share it with anybody. Share it with some. If you've got any Trump-loving friends, share this. Okay? Share this video. Tell them I'm ready to fight. Okay? Tell them get up on here and prove me wrong. Okay? I ain't scared. I am not scared. All right? Never have been, never will be. It is what it is. All right. Talk to you later. I love you all. And my motto is to open your minds. Anyway, I love this little boy. I'll talk to you later. Dr. Cindy is out. Bye-bye.